Welcome into the Behind the Frenzy podcast. I'm your host, Dean Holzwarth, joined again today by Andy McDonald. Andy, we are into the regional finals.
Can't believe we're here. It's really went that quick. And again, another week last week. I know we talk about the weather every time, but we didn't have to deal with any bad weather again. And I'm not sure what the forecast holds for this week, but we got games split this time. It's Saturday and Friday, so we're really pushing our luck on if we're going to get 2 good days of weather in a row.
Yes, I did. I always kind of, like I said last week, I look at the local forecast, listen to Ellen Baca, a little plug to Ellen, and mostly clear for Friday.
Yeah.
In the 50s or low 40s by game time, whatever the case may be.
It's unbelievable. Really is how it's been. But, I can't complain. Last week was great. We were able to get together afterwards, so that was cool too. So
Yeah. Shout out to all the photojournalists here, who do Football Frenzy with us and who are out every night getting highlights and traveling long distances and coming in and grinding and getting the highlights. I think Jack said we had for the season so far 265 games that we've
it's good stuff.
done highlights had highlights for. So yeah, we celebrated a little bit at Pepino's last Friday night, and that was a kind of good time.
It was awesome. And honestly, if you follow high school football, last week was definitely one of the weeks you wanted to be following because that was probably one of the more exciting weeks I've covered since I've had a job here.
Oh yeah, so many amazing games, and we're gonna kind of go through those games. The games that kind of set up these regional finals. Starting out in Division I, which the Hudsonville-Granville game, really good game. Granville led 10-0 at the half. Really kind of controlled that game. Hudsonville came back and forth, and then Hudsonville got that late stop to come up victorious.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to call Granville an upset pick this week, I think a lot of people felt like it was definitely possible. I'm not really surprised that they were able to get out in front of Hudsonville. I'm a little surprised by the lower score. I thought maybe it could have been a higher scoring game, but no, Hudsonville still proved that they are one of the better teams, and not just the area, but maybe even in the state, by not playing their best and finding a way to still get the job done on Friday night. Close game like that, those are the kind of things that you can take later in the playoffs and use as well when you get towards Ford Field.
Yeah. We talk about motivation a lot, and I think Hudsonville is not going to need any motivation this week. Looking for their first trip to the state semifinal since 2005.
It's a long time.
They play a team that they played the first week of the season. And Howell lost 20-17, haven't lost since.
That's, everything you need right there. Don't need any coach speak when it comes to that kind of a game. Every player on the team remembers it. So, yeah, it'll be a good one. I'm sure it'll be close again. But right now, the way Hudsonville's rolling, it feels hard to stop them. And even if they're going to need to play a better game, I think, in this one than they did against Granville. You can't start out slow and behind at halftime. I think they need to get out to a better start and play their game a little bit more.
Yep. Do you think being tested so much, they needed a last-second field goal to beat East Kentwood. They needed a late stop to beat Granville. Do you think having these close encounters with these OK Red teams and kind of being tournament tested already in the first 2 games is going to help them for this one?
I think it even more kind of has asked the question, is it this area is that good and they're all that competitive, or is it more going forward, these teams are not going to be as good as what we have in this area? Time will tell that answer, but I definitely think no matter what, when you get to play closer games, it helps with the experience going forward because, how many times have we seen teams at Ford Field kind of get ahead of themselves and get blown out in a game or something like that? I think just having these tight games, it kind of keeps you drawn in the entire time, that that nothing's going to be given to you throughout the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think facing a little adversity for Hudsonville is going to help them, right?
Yeah,
battle tested. Sure. They've been down in both their games in the fourth quarter, and they've found ways to win, which is a mark of a good team.
No, for sure. Anytime you can come from behind and get the job done, especially in the playoffs when your back is against the wall, it says a lot about who you are.
Yeah. Looking at this Howell team real quick, last year they were 3-6. Now they're 11-0. They've already set their school record for most wins in this season and points. They've scored 393 points, and they barely beat Brighton to win a district title, 35-33.
That's crazy. To be able to put up the most points says a lot. I haven't been able to see them play this year, so I don't know too much about them, but it sounds like they have everything going in the right direction, and I'm sure Hudsonville will be ready, but it's not going to be an easy one. Obviously, you lose to a team earlier in the season, you just don't have to look past it. You know what's coming.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move to Division II. Portage Central at Byron Center. Byron Center squandered a 23-0 lead.
Yeah.
But was able to get that win last week and avenged that loss to Mona from earlier in the year, their only loss of the year, and now they get to go home for the first time to play a Portage Central team that they played in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean,
or last year, sorry.
Can't say enough about Tungate. He's a great quarterback. The way I asked him after the game. I covered that game, and it was an absolutely wild one to be at. I think Byron Center's fan base traveled as well as you would have expected him to, so it felt like it was almost kind of like even on home and away crowd. I mean, both teams were cheering when one did good, but I mean, 23-0. It wasn't even at half, actually. I'm not sure if you said that.
It was 16-0 at the half, and then they scored in third.
They had the 17-0 lead, and they came out in the second half, and I asked after the game, I asked Cisco if was that an onside kick, because they kicked like a pretty short kickoff, and he said it wasn't planned. I don't know if he's just trying to deflect that for other teams to not expect it in the future, but it landed where no Mona Shores players were. They get the onside kick, first play, Tungate to Lake for like I think it was a 27-yard touchdown.
Okay.
Unbelievable way to start the second half. And you're thinking like, okay, this team just pulled out all the stops. There's no way they're going to lose. And then Mona just rattles off touchdown, two-pointer, touchdown, two-pointer, touchdown. They end up tying the game.
Yeah.
And it was just like so unexpected. But I mean, when it got to 23-16, it started to feel like, okay, this is probably going to happen, or it's going to like get that close. It came all the way to the point where they tied it. And I asked Landon after the game, I was kind of like, what was the feeling on the sideline? And he admitted it. He was like, we were definitely questioning it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, Cisco had the opposite answer. He kind of was like, no, these kids were ready. They definitely have to feel it a little bit as players when you lose that big of a lead.
Yep.
And they come out there and they drive right down the field. They got a really, really big pass and catch for like 40 yards that kind of, I felt like, evened out the momentum, because everything was going in Mona's way. And it felt like if something big didn't happen for them where they had a big play, that it wasn't going to ever come back and they were going to lose that game. They were able to get the touchdown, and then at the end,
was it Will Lake that got the interception?
He got the interception in the end zone.
Will Lake had a great game.
He did. He made the one mistake where he, instead of kneeling it in the end zone when he got the interception, he ran it out of the end zone, and you could tell he tried to stop himself, and they ended up marking it at the 1. Luckily, they were able to get a 4 or 5 yard QB sneak from Tungate to be able to get out of pressure there. But yeah, it was a heck of a football game. Super back and forth it ended up being. I think, halfway through that game, everybody thought it was kind of over, but they were able to get the job done, and they're moving on. And I don't think it surprises anybody they're moving on. This team has a lot of motivation to keep going to the playoffs with how they ended last year to where they are now.
And we talked about Tungate. I don't think he threw an interception in that game. Am I correct if I'm wrong?
No, he did not. No.
So like 3 interceptions the first time against them, and I think he knew he had to kind of clean up things and be better as far as finding his open receivers and not allowing Mona Shore's defense to create some momentum by getting some picks, and he played a pretty clean game.
After an early, they had an early 3 and out. It was actually Byron Center's defense that was able to get the turnovers. They had a interception that led to their first touchdown, and then they were able to get a fumble recovery a little bit later when Mona was driving as well. So they had the big turnovers, and it truly proved to be the difference in both of those games. Going back to the one earlier in the season too, you win the turnover battle, you win that game.
Okay. Byron Center is seeking their first state semifinal appearance in school history coming up. Portage Central coming into this game 8-3, and it was last year that Byron Center and Portage Central played in the first playoff game in districts there, 142-23. Last time Portage Central won a regional crown was in 2013, so it's been about 11 years for them.
They're motivated as well. Portage Central, beat a good Mattawan team too. I know that they weren't able to score in that game, but I covered them the week before. They surprised me against the team they played from Lansing. I think it was Lansing Everett. That was a surprising, the way that game started. They were down 14-0. They were able to come back. So that's definitely a well-coached team and well-coached program as well. So to be able to shut out anybody in the playoffs is a lot, but a team that was able to beat a team that might have had more talent, I guess if you would say, in the first round, to be able to get that win was good for Portage Central. So I'm sure they're going to bring everything they have in this game. I think this will be another really good one. And that's tough back-to-back for Byron Center. It really is.
It is. And I was talking to, I'm good friends with Landon Conrad's dad, TJ, and I saw him today at Maple Hill. Shout out to Maple Hill Golf Course. Talked to him today, and I was like, hey, they have a chance to go to Ford Field, but they can't overlook this game. And he's like, nope. I think this team's pretty locked in and focused, and they're not looking. They can't afford to look past anybody right now at this point.
No doubt. That's it. This time of the year, you look past them, you don't get to keep playing. So that's the way that it goes. And Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Maple Hill Golf.
Yeah. TJ also told me that this senior class is 20-3.
Wow.
That's their record over their career so far. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so they know how to win, and they've been doing it for a long time. So, yeah, that's the kind of formula you need to keep moving on.
Yep. Division 3, some familiar opponents here. Forest Hill Central goes to Zeeland West. Zeeland West picked up a big road win last week, and they will host. That game will be on Friday. Forest Hill Central defending state champions in Division 3. It's a lot going on with this game, Andy.
Yeah.
And just from the fact that last year, Forest Hill Central beat Zeeland West in the state semis to go to Ford Field. And then earlier this year, am I right here? Oh, earlier this season, playing in the same conference now, Zeeland West beat them in week 6, 28-7. So they know each other.
They do, for sure. There's no question about that. And I think we need to give Forest Hill Central a little bit of credit here. We all season, I feel like we were kind of like, are they as good as they were, a year ago? And even the past couple of years, you could say, getting to Ford Field and then actually winning it last year. I feel like they weren't, but now here they are again, making another run in the playoffs. I think it says a lot about, their program and what they were able to instill. And over the past couple of years, that even over some changes, they're still able to get here and play in this game. Obviously, Zeeland West has an offense that's tough to stop. They run it the right way. They're a very, very, very tough offense to stop. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Coopersville wasn't a team that was going to lay down for Forest Hill Central either. So that's a good win for them going into this game. But I don't know if they've played a team like, they have played Zeeland West this year. I don't know if they've played a team that's better than Zeeland West. So we'll see. Yeah,
Zeeland West has looked impressive the first 2 games, outscored their first 2 playoff opponents 74-6.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
The only team Zeeland West has lost to this year is Uni Christian.
Yeah, and we'll get to that game. But
game.
that says a lot because Unity was a team that we expected to maybe even keep going. So yeah, for sure.
I think Forest Hill Central is going to lean on their defense. They've had 8 games this year where they've allowed 14 points or less, and I think that's been the big key for them this year is their defense.
No question about that. That's again why we kind of wondered if they could get this far. How far could their defense really take them? So far, it's been able to get this far. And again, this is an offense that's going to be really, really tough to stop. I can tell you, trying to shoot them on the sideline a couple times this year, it's pretty tough when they're coming out of that wing tee.
Oh, 100%. Yep. I did one of their games, and it's, you have to,
it's not easy.
Different
but
ways.
I think that does speak to coaching, even from our angle. Like, if we can't follow it when we're we're locked in on the ball every time they take a snap, right?
Yep.
So when you can run it that well to where you're faking us out, you're doing it right, it's that much harder for players to see in the field when everything's moving that kind of speed. So, great matchup of a really good run game against a really good defense in Forest Hill Central.
Yep, great point. Division 4, that kind of leads us into kind of a matchup we kind of really didn't expect, I think, Andy, here in the regional finals with South Christian going to Whitehall. Whitehall with that big win in the first playoff game against Forest Hills Eastern. They upset at Forest Hills Eastern. They go to Big Rapids. Probably not favored there.
Yeah, no,
beat
for
Big
sure.
Rapids, and now they get to host a South Christian team that upset top-ranked Uni Christian.
No, absolutely. I mean, the points say it's 48 for South Christian, it's 51 for Whitehall. So it's definitely 2 teams that maybe they didn't expect to make it this far, but both have done the job. And obviously the battle between these 2 quarterbacks is fascinating, and they're both great. Have been good so far this year. And yeah, South Christian, I can't say enough about it. I mean, what a weird season. They back their way into the playoffs after this really hot start where nobody can stop Carson Viss.
Then lost 4 games in a row.
Exactly. They lose 4 games in a row. Back their way into where some people probably don't even think they should have made the playoffs. I'm sure there's other teams out there that were like, maybe we should have had more points, whatever. That aside, they've clearly proved they belong now. I don't know how I can pick against them at this point. I mean, with the way they've been able to play and how good Carson is as a quarterback when they need him the most. It's going to be a fascinating game. And Camden Thomas is also one to watch as well. So.
Yeah, Camden Thompson and Carson Viss. Talking to Jack Doles earlier, apparently they played AAU basketball together back in the day, so they know each other very well, and they mirror each other, I think, as quarterbacks.
Absolutely. When you get this kind of a battle, it's the one you want to watch. It's funny. I always say that they're both maybe teams that weren't supposed to be here and make it, but yet it has one of the most intriguing battles at quarterback. Yeah. I think it speaks to how well, because it's the most important position in the field, maybe in sports. It's hard to argue like these 2 are just so key to their teams, and they can really carry them to wherever. So whatever quarterback wins this game, it's like hard to pick against them going forward.
Yeah. Carson Viss accounted for 5 touchdowns last week in that win. And South Christian's defense was improved. You know,
sure.
they gave up 50 points in that regular season loss to Unity, and then they hold them to 28 points this past game. So improved defensive effort, and then Carson Viss, kind of doing what he does, kind of, led them to the upset win.
Holding Unity to 28 points is like, holding other teams to 0. It feels like, because their offense is so good, they're not going to not score. They still outscore. 35 points is still a lot to score, I guess, but either way, that's a really, really good defensive effort, and they deserve a lot of credit for being able to hold an offense like that to that many points. Since I've been covering them the past few years, despite the down year last year, they've always had a great offense that's able to put up a lot of points. So,
and I think we have to give props to Unity Christian. What a great season, such a tough ending, because I know they expected more. Right, when you're undefeated, you hadn't lost all season. You hadn't, the closest game, wasn't even single digits. It was double-digit wins every year, and you're kind of going through. But that's what can happen in the postseason, right?
Really
like anything can happen on any given night, and that's why they play the game.
Absolutely, that's how it goes. And I'm sure that if you were to ask them about the game, they would probably tell you that South Christian earned it, because they did. It's just like all it comes down to. The end of the day, it seems like they were competitive in the game, but sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Yep. Sometimes it's those little things.
Yeah, it seems like that's what happened. This tight of a game with the firepower on both sides, sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Yeah. South Christian and Whitehall, the last time these two teams met was in the regional finals in 2022. I was actually there at that game, writing a story for it. Really, really good game. In that game, Whitehall was undefeated coming in. South Christian, I think, hadn't had the greatest of seasons. Like, it was kind of like the 4 losses during the regular season kind of thing, and they played well going through. No, I take that back. That was their undefeated season, when both teams were undefeated going into that game.
Yeah.
And South was able to win 28-21, but a really, really good game. So I'm expecting the same.
No doubt. I'm right there with you.
Division 5, another team with another exciting regional final game between Catholic Central and West Catholic.
You definitely argue that was the most exciting.
You feel bad for Uni Christian, and then another spectrum here. You got to feel bad for West Catholic too.
Yeah,
they were in control of that game. Up 24 seconds left, blocked punt, ensuing touchdown by Jameson Williams to win it for Catholic Central at West Catholic. A tough one for West Catholic, but credit Catholic Central for getting the big block and doing what they needed to do to win.
Yeah, I know a lot of people for both those schools. Grew up around the area my whole life. That game means everything, and it doesn't really surprise you. It's like, obviously it's not the same scenario, but like the whole trouble with the snap thing, obviously they had the blocked punt. It's like Michigan State, crazy things happen like that. If you watch this West Catholic Central game over the years, things like that happen too.
Yeah.
And West is not, I don't know the exact record over the last 10 to 15 years. They've won a share of games, but they've definitely had a lot of close heartbreakers in this one too. And Catholic Central, I would almost put 99% of my money on they've won more of those games.
Yeah.
This is one that meant a lot to them, and to lose it is probably really, really tough right now. Definitely feel for them a little bit, but again, you can't take it away from Catholic Central. That
they made the plays.
Exactly. It says a lot about Todd's coaching as well, just because in that huddle before they go out there for that play, it's so easy to give up. I understand as an athlete, you always want to do everything you can to win and move on, but like a blocked punt, are you really thinking that's going to happen? Whatever it is. And they get the job done, and then to score a touchdown in the back of the end zone the way they did on the next play. What a catch by Williams. Just unbelievable finish, and it doesn't surprise me that Catholic Central is the team that can find a way to get magic, not even in their best year.
Yeah.
Not even close to their best year. They can find a way to keep moving on, and now it's Kalamazoo United. I did cover them earlier this year. They can score points, and they can do it in a hurry. A couple trick plays in the game that I covered, so you never know what's going to come out, but it's so hard to pick against a unit like Catholic Central that has just done it for years at this point.
It is, and the Cat will be electric. They get to go
back
play at home now.
What a reward!
Yep, they're back home playing at the Cat. In Kalamazoo United, when I was kind of looking up stats on them, they've only allowed 145 points this season. They've had 4 shutouts, so their defense has been pretty good too. I don't know about you. I'm expecting a low-scoring game.
Yeah, no, for sure. It will be that way probably, again, because you look at the West Catholic and Catholic Central game and you'd be like, how is that the most exciting? Obviously, just because of the ending.
Yeah.
Catholic Central has won some of their games this year this way. I wouldn't expect it to be any less going this further to the playoffs. So, again, though, if I'm them, the momentum just has to be at an all-time
Oh, yeah.
high right now. So who knows? They could put up a lot of points too.
Right. Like all these teams, like South Christian, they're going to be on a high after being Unity.
Absolutely.
And I think at this point of the year, like I talked about with Byron saying, you're not looking past anybody, right? You're focused on the game in front of you. And, you win, you go into state semis, and you focus on that game, and you get to go, rewarded with a trip to Ford Field.
And that's like a credit. I don't know if it's credit necessarily maybe to this new system or whatever it is for the playoffs and how they've been making it. But I can just tell you in past years when I covered, playoff games for the first couple of weeks, even if it was like if it was a game you expected to be a blowout or a team you didn't expect to win, maybe somebody would give them, a little bit of crap in the first half. But it always ended up usually being the team that was supposed to win by a lot. Like I don't remember a weekend like this past weekend. So it says a lot about the matchups they were able to put together, and it's been great so far. So
yeah, let's just go on and list real quick some area teams that we will be covering who are also in the regional finals. Division 4, we have Portland at Niles. Division 6, Boyne City at Reed City. Constantine at Jackson Lumen Christi, Lansing Catholic Central at Newaygo. We've talked a lot about Newaygo. What a great story there.
How about them still moving on right now? It's crazy.
Ralph Munger wins his 3rd district title.
You can't
with
make it
three
up.
different teams: Frankenmuth, Rockford, now Newaygo, and they get to host.
Yeah.
So a chance to go.
Lansing Catholic is one of those teams that's always there. So I know that's going to be between one of the greatest coaches in our state, like history, a program that every year seems to be fighting to get to Ford Field at least.
Yeah.
It's a good matchup. I like it a lot.
Yep. North Muskegon with this short trip to Menominee. Joking. Andy didn't catch that one.
You scared me. I was thinking that maybe I would have to make that drive myself.
Right. Long trip to Menominee.
It is very long. Yeah. That's one of the teams that in like the past I remember West Catholic would play a lot in in the state championship game when the divisions were different.
Yeah.
And stuff. So yeah, it's definitely not a short trip.
No. And I mean, obviously, it's a long trip, but you got that time together with your team. You got team bonding. You're kind of together for that long drive. More than likely, you're staying in a hotel Friday night. North Muskegon has impressed me this year, and I wouldn't count them out.
Absolutely. Again, I mentioned it like a week or two ago. Them losing a quarterback that was pretty important to them to go to Muskegon.
Yep.
I mean, I understand the choice there and everything else, but. I mean, they're still going. It says a lot about their program and their coaching staff. And again, you talk about the road trip. Like any team is playing at this time of the year, they will say we'll play wherever and we're gonna get the job done. So they're definitely up. They're up for it. That's for sure.
Division 7 Schoolcraft goes to Hudson. That game's on Saturday. I was able to see Schoolcraft on Friday night. They played at Lawton. I got there with a couple minutes left, and they're up 24-0. Went up 31-0. Played very, very well. That's a very good team. And then Division 8 Reading at Decatur. I also covered that game. Decatur beat Saugatuck. Seemed to have a really good offense and tough defense. So that'll be another one we will be looking at as well. So
for sure, it's another weekend full of it. But then we're gonna really be getting down to it after that. I mean, hopefully our teams win around this area, but it always is getting down to smaller amounts of games. So we're getting to that point in the season.
Yep. Well, best of luck to all the teams coming up this weekend, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. So thanks a lot. Bye.